Hello, everyone. Jake Smeester here, creative content specialist for Amazon Sumerian. I actually don't have up my chat room. Hold on, I'm getting on my chat room. Something I forgot. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It looks like we are live. I realize that I am interrupting the the England-Croatia World Cup game right now. And so I'm guessing there's not a lot of Croatians, English or British people, or possibly anybody that is in the world watching right now. But I am here, and that could be over at any moment. So anyway, thanks for joining me, or if you're watching this later, because I do post all these videos later on my YouTube channel. So thanks for joining me. Let's see, what are we doing today? We are continuing the project that I've been working on for I wasn't here was it last week? Well, last week was 4th of July. The week before that, I was on vacation. So it's been a couple weeks since I've worked on this project of building a city and what that looks like. Working on a large scene project that eventually I want to be able to get. I've done this once before, but it was just kind of a couple buildings, and I'm trying to make it a lot more cleaner and a lot better, a better full-on experience for VR. So that's what we are continuing to work on. So I am going to jump over to my screen, and here we are. All right, here's my screen, and this is in Sumerian. We are currently using some models that we found that I purchased from TurboSquid. I don't have any particular agreements or partnership with this creator. I just purchased it, and because I think it's really, really great. So whoever built this, Vin Creations, I like your work. Thank you. All right, so what are we doing? This is what we're building, and this is what we have so far. And I'm attempting to, and again, this is some unrehearsed Sumerian scene creations. And what I'm trying to do is, first of all, build out the city streets structure and then start adding in some buildings. And again, I have never built a city before, so this is all new to me. And so I'm trying to figure out the best practices for this, especially when you're doing something large scale, such as this. And so I do need to pull over. For some reason, I got rid of all these files, so I'm having to pull that back over. So I'm downloading this again, putting it on my desktop, extracting from this zip file. And here we go. Almost 100%. All right. Okay, so let's get back to this. What do we have here? Let's look at the model or the image that I'm pulling from, and some of the things we want to start adding. We've added some buildings, as you can see. I just hear some cheering from down this. Somebody might have just won or lost. We have some buildings set up. One thing that we might want to do is create kind of this canal that goes down underneath it. I keep wanting to actually move this around, but it's just an image. I can't do that. So maybe a canal that goes underneath like this. And how does that work? I'm guessing it would be, go underneath all the way. So how do we put in something to kind of make this? Let's see if I can find a better image. Yeah, there it is. This canal here. All right, I'm going to pull over no, I'm not going to do that. I'll keep it over here. I'm looking for the models to build that canal. So let's find that. Nature's urban is probably roads and bridges. Footbridge, road bridge. Where would that be? I'm looking for urban roadway. No, where would that be? Airport buildings, props. Would it be in city props? Dumpster, no. So I'm looking for this file. The model that would be there. Maybe it's in others. Windmill, lighthouse, container crane, air balloon. That's interesting. There's an air balloon. Train station, vehicles. No, not in there. Maybe it's in nature. Okay, a city river. All right, I think I found it. All right, so I'm looking through all these different files. I'm going to drag this over and see what this looks like. I'm dragging over terrain city river. Collapsed all these. There it is. It's probably going to come over here. And let's look at this guy. All right, that's pretty much it. And it's set down underneath too. So it actually is, it's already in the right position. And let's think about how we want to do this. All right, so you have it's green on both sides. Cool. We want to add also some materials to this. And so, again, any questions anybody has out there, feel free to ask. It can be completely unrelated to this. That is totally fine. All right, textures, nature, and let's find this river. If you remember, we're bringing in models as they exist here, and then we are finding what's oftentimes the sub or child entity of the entities that we bring in, where you can find the material, because right now you can just see it's white. There's no material attached to it. And the nature, what this model that I'm using, the textures it's using, I just need to add, drag, and drop onto here. And that should work, but that doesn't look quite right, because a river should be blue. Maybe it's this one. Let me try this other one. That's the one I want. Okay, so there's two different ones. Again, you can't see. I'm just going to show you what I got. So right now I am, this is what I'm pulling from. And so I'm searching through that folder. All right, so let's back up here. I should probably stop chatting so much and just get to it. Let's do 90 degrees. Great, and let's move that right there. I'm trying to be exact as possible. So if I'm moving it here, it's probably going to be 125. All right, so I'm going to create an empty entity and call it river. And let's put this subterranean in there. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if I just changed. Yes, I did. I keep doing this, which is really frustrating. I keep changing the child transform and not the parent transform. So what happens is, now I have the the top of the parent level is like its center is over here, but the actual model is over here. So when I move this, it's like offset like that. I don't really want to be offset like that, but that's because I keep changing the transform of the wrong entity. I keep changing the transform of the child entity, not the parent entity. I'm going to keep going. No, I don't want to do that. I need to fix that. And so I need to go back to 0, 0. Actually, I'm just going to hit and go reset. Perfect. And then now I can move this along. And I need to rotate it 90 degrees. And then here we go. I haven't really used the reset too much, but that's actually really handy. It's very handy. All right, is that roughly in the middle? Let's go 300 just so it's... I'm trying to use as many even numbers as possible. All right, so I'm going to duplicate this and then drag this one off. So all of this is going underneath. I don't know if... Yeah, it looks like there's some bridges here, if you notice. How does that look? Yeah, we've got some bridges. All right, so we might build in some bridges. So again, some of these I did not necessarily do it in the correct way, the correct order. But again, that's what I'm figuring out here. All right, so let's do... This looks like it's going to be 205. Great. And let's just keep repeating this guy. We don't have to do this too many times. Let's look at this one. So that one's 205. This one was... Really, that should probably be 165. 125, 165, 205. So really we're moving up by 40 increments, right? So 205, so this one should probably be 245. Great, and then we'll duplicate that, and then we'll add on 40 and make that 80, and then we'll duplicate that one, and then make it, what is 285 plus 40? That is 325, I believe, if my math does me any good, and it does. Great. Okay, let's repeat that again. 65. Boy, I'm cruising now. Look at me cruise. And then 405. And then let's duplicate it again and go to 445. And then let's duplicate it again and go 485. All right, that's cool. All right. Look at that. I'm probably going to need to go on add some tree. I need to add some green landscape to this too. So how do we do green landscape? Well, there's actually several different ways we can do that. One is, let's see what they do. Let's see what they have to offer over here. Hey, there is a good way to add colliders to an imported 3D model. I'm looking at Payton Interrupt. Am I saying that right? Payton Interrupt? Interrupt? Is there a good way to add colliders to an imported 3D model? Adding a collider to an entity seems to just make a big box collider. Great question. Not related to what I'm doing, which is wonderful. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so let's take this example. I'm going to look at this, what's essentially the World, not the World Trade Center, the Empire State Building. And let's look at this. So if we were to add a collider to this, how do we do that? Go add component. Right, good. I have the right name correct. We add a collider, and right now it is a box. There's so currently there are, let me think how to do this. There's a few options just directly in the collider component itself. Box, shape, infinite plane, and sphere. So right now you have the option to, immediately you have the option to add a box, a cylinder, a sphere shape, or an infinite plane. And so your question is, how do you actually make it so it wraps completely around this object itself? My guess is. Well, number one, it just depends on your object. And so sometimes a box or a sphere or a cylinder is going to work just fine. And I would say a lot of times what we have seen is that typically does work. However, you can add a... Let me look at our documentation. There's a tutorial out here. I'm going to go ahead and find this for you and pull this up. Shut down some things here. Where is it? All right, so there are two different tutorials. There's a mesh collider for a torus. So this is how do you add a mesh collider onto a torus. And my guess is you might be looking for this one, mesh collider for terrain geometry. So essentially, there's a script you can add to your object. And so, for example, we provide you with a simple like mountain. I think it's an FBX file that you can use and you can add. And then adding on this script that we provide in here will allow you to add on a terrain to or a collider onto a non-sphere box or cylinder-shaped object. So I would start there, and it kind of depends on what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting it collide with. There are some limitations, and so make sure you read in the tutorials there. But yeah, colliders. Colliders are fun. They can be. No, I wouldn't say they're tricky, but you gotta. They're very specific on how they operate. So just pay attention to that. If you have any more questions, let me know. But thanks for the question. Right, see. Let's go back to this. I guess I can delete that collider because I don't really need it. All right, so how do we start adding on some green terrain to this? Because as we can see in this image, we got a lot of green terrain. How do we do that? All right, let's look at, I'm going to pull over here so we can see what I'm looking at. Let's go to models, the nature, terrain probably, grass plain. That's probably what I want. And so I'm just going to grab my, grass flat. I feel like I just said something else. Grass flat. All right, now let's drag this one over. Cool, and then I'm going to add, let's find my textures, nature, and let's see, I'm going to pull that off the screen now. Let's see what it looks like with adding some, nope, I'm guessing it's the other. There's only two options here. See, I have two options, two textures. I'm going to try the other one, number 2. That just gave me an error for some reason. I'm trying to drag and drop too fast. There we go. All right. So adding grass. How does this work? Oh, see, I did it again. See, I'm changing the child entity when really I want to change this entity. When really I should be changing this entity to grass, and then let's add on, drag this grass terrain object onto this one. And now we're going to move the grass terrain to where we want it to begin with. Let's start over here in the corner. That looks about right. Probably 115 is what we want to keep it at, and then probably 380. That's probably good. Now we're going to actually start adjusting this one, so we're going to have all these different sections. All right, so let's duplicate this one. And let's figure out, it's probably 20. So it's probably in units of 20. That's my guess. And let's duplicate another one. It's probably going to be 40. Let's duplicate another one and try 60. There is some, I just heard somebody yelling about the game. So I'm having to change down change this down a little bit. Maybe 0.65. 6.25. Really want this to be nice and clean as possible. Okay, so now let's go. What are my coordinates for grass? -115 and 380. So what I'm learning here is that this is one of the biggest things is actually trying to figure out how to, what's your workflow, especially with creating parent entities and child entities. So let's do grass 1. So I don't want a bunch of grass entities over here. I want to keep them all in one entity, and then I want to be able to move them around. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add grass 1 there. Actually, no, I don't want to do that first. I want to make it the same coordinates as this, so it's in the same spot. -115, 0, 380. All right, so -115, 380. I don't know why it's over there. $115, 380. Interesting. I don't know why it's doing that. That's a little strange. It's not moving it, huh? And okay, that'll work. All right, so now I'm going to drag it over here, and then these guys, I'm going to all drag there. So then I can just take this one, duplicate it, and I can just move this over. So it goes a lot faster than then I can duplicate that. Move that probably over by 40 units. Great. Duplicate it again. Move it over by 40 units. And then duplicate that again. And I can probably just I have a little. Doesn't actually connect right there. Which I'm also realizing. Yeah, it's okay for now. We'll fix some of these things. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Now let's see if we can take this grass 1. And move the whole thing over. And then do this a couple times. And then take that one over again. The cool thing is with grass, because it doesn't really need to be. There can be, I don't want there to be any overlap with, I don't want there to be any overlap with the actual roads. There can be some overlap with green because there's going to be a little bit of Z fighting with entities that are so close together, but for like colors like the grass, doesn't really matter. Grass can overlap grass. Let's do this guy then over here and just try to probably pull down his size a little bit. Let's do 0.9, see if that works. 0.91, maybe get a little bigger to fit in there. Okay, great. Now, let's go to grass 1. Okay, so actually I'm just going to keep doing this. There's really no reason why not to. So actually I can go to grass 4, duplicate it, and then drag him over. And which size do I need to scale that down? Probably on this one, on the Z plane. So maybe 3.1, let's do 3.2, 3.3. I'm just trying to fill in that gap. 3.5, let's do 3.8. That's too big. 3.7. Oh, that's way too big. So let's do 3.6. 3.4. So really 3.1 is, I think that's probably right. Okay. Cool. Now we're going to duplicate this again. Man, duplicating makes things a lot easier. Nope. Oh, I just did something weird. Oops. Okay. Grass 5, we'll duplicate that and then bring him down. And we need to expand. This is the nice thing about, oh, not there. Duplicate, bring it down. Let's make him 1. Needs to be like 1.1, not even that, 1.05 maybe. Let's great, and then we'll duplicate that guy and then bring him over. So he needs to be down to, let's try 1. Nope. Let's do 0.7. Let's do 0.8. Just kind of trial and error here. I'm going to stop being as picky and just go with it. All right, I'm going to duplicate this, make it another one. 1. Let's make it 0.9 instead. See if that. Let's do 1. I think that's fine. So all of these grass, all these grass entities, I'm gonna have to put into one because I don't like having so many. Oh, we got some questions. Sweet Games, what are you working on today? Good question. The same thing. This is the continuing running project of building this city. So right now we're having to duplicate. Right now we're going through some of the tough work of, or the redundant work of copying entities and duplicating them and then sliding them over into certain positions and kind of altering the transforms. Let's see. Stoic Voice of Reason. Are there plans for stretch snap transforms to avoid the point now? Yeah. Great question. And yes, this is a common question, and this is something that we have certainly added to the list of functions that we would like to add. So I can't say for certain when that'll happen, but it is certainly on our radar. Something that would be really, really helpful. But yeah, I totally understand. As you can see, I'm dealing with this very exact thing right now. So let's make another one here. This one has to be, so we're going to have to be a little bit bigger. So 0.4, that's probably too big. 0.35. 0.36 maybe. It's probably a little too big. That's actually pretty good. Actually going to go to this one. Grass 7, duplicate that, and then slide that over because this is a little bit easier. What did I do for grass 9? 0.36. So 0.36. Now I'm cruising. And then is it grass 5 is up there. .36. Cool. All right, I am getting. Oh, nope. I'm getting close. So this one I'm having to go, let's see, it should be the same. Should be that on the z-axis. Try points. Oh no, 0.6, not 6. 6.1, 6.2, 6.3. And then let's make this one 1 to see what we get. Now we need to be a lot bigger than that. 1.5 maybe? .49. Let's go down to 0.3 to see what that looks like. Ooh, that's pretty close. .35. That'll do. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep adding on this grass, right? So here's my plan. I'm going to go on the inside. Once I kind of build the city up in the way I like it on the inside, then I'm going to add on, and some of these things I should actually watch because I do want to make them, well, it's okay. We can change the textures really easily. Well, actually, some of them not so much. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to build out the city on the inside. Then I'm going to kind of worry about the outside. So we're going to keep doing that, and then once we kind of get the groundwork led, then we can really start adding the cool models. And so that's something that maybe I might get to. See how far I get today. Let's see, what are we at? We're at 137. We'll keep hammering away at this. All right, let's duplicate. But yeah, that's sort of my plan on how to keep this moving. All right, let's try 1. Great. Now, so this is my question. If I want to change this, the texture of one of them, I think it's going to change the texture of all of them. Exactly, which is not something I want to do. Okay, so I don't actually want green on all of them. I do want some, as you can see, I want some concrete on where some of the buildings are. However, some of the buildings can be on green as well. So this shouldn't be too much of a problem. But let's add on some concrete. Sweet Games, do you need to mark each grass entity to ground? Do you need to mark each grass entity to ground? Let's see. Whoa, you're asking me so many questions at the same time. Do you need to mark each grass entity to ground? What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean by that. Sweet Games, if you could clarify. Your second question. Can you have the scene to be both AR and VR at the same time? Interesting. I believe the answer is no, because the way it's set up right now is that when you create an AR application, you build an app using ARKit or ARCore on your mobile device, whereas VR would be using a web browser. Cloudreach Stewart. Gutted. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Cloudreach Stewart. Please clarify. I want to know what you're so sad about. So yeah, that's the answer to the AR and VR at the same time. Do you need to mark each grass entity to ground? I don't know what you mean by that. So let me know. I'll keep going. Urban, roads, bridges, text. No, we need nature, I think. Stone. That's what I thought. Ah, okay. I don't know the terms. England lost. Really? Interesting. Wow. Yikes. Too bad, British people. But good job, Croatians. All right, so I'm adding what I'm doing now is I'm going to add some concrete to this. So I'm going to put some concrete underneath these buildings here. And so I added the terrain concrete, which was found in one of these folders. And so like I did with oh boy, this is interesting. Gives me more of a model. I thought it would be more of a just a flat plane. Let's see what this looks like. Concrete. I'm looking for the concrete texture. And let's see, where am I? Okay, let's see what this looks like. You know, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to use this because it looks to me like it's just a gray image. This just looks like a box that you can make directly in Sumerian. So what I'm going to do is do something else. I'm going to create an entity and make it a quad, and we're gonna, can you see, let me actually check. Nope. I don't want a rectangle. I do want a quad because the difference between here, this quad and disc versus a rectangle and circle is that these 2D shapes, you can see them on both sides. Whereas the disc and the quad, it's only visible, the texture is only visible on one side. I'll show you what I mean. So notice I see I can see the quad there, but then I move over, I cannot see the quad anymore. Which has actually some very, very useful use cases. That being let's see, that being, like if you want to have a room, I was doing this yesterday on Twitch too, like you build a room and you want to be able to see inside of it from all directions, but you want to be able to feel like you're in the room when you're inside the room. That's because, like, so when you're outside the room, you can see through the walls. When you're in the room, you can't see through the walls because it's supposed to feel like you're in a room. So now I'm making my own. I'm using my own, not using my own. I'm using Sumerian provided items. World Cup, you need to make a football field. I thought you had to flag entities as ground. I thought you had to flag entities as ground so that physics and animations would work. Oh, okay. Yes, you do, but you actually don't. You really could actually add an empty entity. You can add a collider to anything. Let's just start there. You can add a collider to anything, and then you would just want to pick I'll just do it for you. Add component, add collider. Right now, it's the box is a shape. You see that green wireframe. I can select a infinite plane, and then now we actually have an infinite plane all the way throughout the scene, like as far as, infinitely. And so that's how you do it. So you can add it to really any one of these. You could just add a ground entity or a collider entity ground and add a collider and make it an infinite plane, and it just goes on forever. So I actually just did it right there. But I don't really want it to be on this one. And so I'm going to remove that and do it a little later. Because, we're still trying to build the city. There's no reason to have VR stuff in it quite yet. All right, so let's take a look at this quad. Let's transform. Let's do it by 50. I don't know, maybe 80. That's probably too much. 70. What? Ooh, shoot. That's not what I wanted. 70 by, nope. Take the uniform scale off for a second. Let's do 100. maybe that's not the right one. I think I did the wrong value. It should be here. But not 1,000. 100. All right, there we go. We are in business. Why does it look so weird? Does it kind of have a... We don't want it to reflect it. Let's just... Let's take the specular down. I don't really want it to reflect much. And reflectivity. Yeah, we don't really want much at all. So there we go. It's kind of reflecting weird. So done with that. Let's go back to our transform. We need to make this maybe 130. All right, cool. All right, 130 and then maybe 75, 76. 74. Great, and I'm just going to duplicate this and move it over this way. Let's try 70 to make that fit in there. It's definitely too big. Let's make it 65. Still moving. You can still see it's overlapping. So let's make it 63. I thought I did 60 and it was too small. Yeah, apparently that's fine. All right. And let's make this concrete. We're going to rename it. And then quad 2. Concrete 2. And then let's duplicate this one and slide it over. It's going to have to be probably more like 70. A little bigger than that, 73. 74, I think, is the money. Not even quite. 75. 75 will do. I'll take 75. Let's see. Sweet games. Let's see. Otherwise, things will fall. Will the viewer be able to interact with anything on the scene, or will they just be an observer? Well, that's kind of yet to be seen, Sweet Games. Yes, to answer your question, I would like to do that. Again, this is an ongoing project that's going to, there's really no end to it. And so that is definitely the plan, is to make this a scene that you can interact with. And yes, so I shouldn't say that it's yet to be seen. Yes, I do want to do that. But we just, we got to build it first. Another question. Sweet Games, you are the best. Thanks for asking so many questions. Is there a way to make the width a fixed integer, then lay things out based on calculated distances rather than just eyeballing it? Yes. It kind of depends on the way you do things up front. One of the things I'm learning through this process is what would have been great is that had I put the corner, so if I put the center of the world, for example, let's just create an empty entity. The center of the world is over here, and then I put this over here. So everything is just offset a little bit. But had I actually put the center of the world, or this city, to be right here, then I could actually have kind of moved things around, because the person who created this model did a really good job in that everything is in very simple or like whole numbers. So it's like the road is 20 units long, and it's 10 units wide, or something like that. And so you can just kind of go in increments of 10s or 20s, 40s, and so forth, and make things work. So yes, I could have done that, but I did not. It's my fault that I didn't actually do that probably up front well enough. And so that is something that I could try to fix or try to figure out, but that might be more work, because once I actually get all this stuff laid out, like the groundwork, like the roads and the then I can kind of start placing things, and those numbers don't matter as much. So yes, that would have been probably a much smarter way to have started the scene originally. I could take all of this and put in an empty entity and relocate it to right here. But I don't know. I think that's probably a little too late for that. That's possible, and we'll see as I move along. But yeah, so right now I'm just trying to, just create this as just lay the groundwork. Is there a way to move the entire project now? No, because the entire project does not have a transform value. So if I go running project, there's no transform component. What you can do is you can add all of these entities into a empty entity, and then you can, so basically you'd have your top level entity and then a sub level entity with everything else in there, and then you could move it around. And that might make actually a lot of sense for, maybe I will do that actually. That might make a lot of sense for the roads and the green and the terrain, not the buildings. I don't want to do that with the buildings. And so that's actually a really good point. Maybe I should do that. And so I can, as I move along with the terrain and the roads, it'd be a little bit easier, because I'm going to add some, swap things out, add some bridges, add some landscape around it after we're done. So that's a good point. I might be able to do that. Like make a red box and move it. I think I just answered the question. Let me know if I did not. Yes, I would just use an empty entity though. There's no reason to have an actual visible entity. All right, let's look at this concrete 3. Duplicate that and then slide it over, and then we'll try to make this, do this as fast as possible here. It's close enough. Okay, perfect. All right, so now I have some groundwork to start working with. And I can start constructing things and adding things and moving things around. I'm going to have to swap some of these greens out with concrete in certain spots, but that's okay. Let's see where we're at. We're about at 154. I'm going to take not a snapshot. Well, actually, I should take a snapshot of this. I'm going to create a snapshot. I'm going to click create. This will give me a version of this scene that I can revert back to if I want. And there it is. There are a few different ones there. And let's see what I want to do. Oh yeah, I want to take a screenshot of this. Perfect. So now I kind of know what the scene looks like. I do want to make. I want to make one more root grass entity. And I'll put all of the grass under one. I'm going to move it so it's sort of centralized. Actually, let's move it to. Let's move it till it's right there. See, I missed a little bit on these ones. So yeah, so eyeballing it didn't quite do it, but it's okay. All right, so I have grass there. And I'm going to go grass parent just so I know what it looks like. All right, and now I'm going to start adding, dragging and dropping all of these grass entities there, and I'm going to do the same with the concrete. Cool. So I actually created that empty entity right there. I'm going to do the same thing as I did just a second ago. Kind of move it down here. So I'm moving this first, and then I'm going to do my nesting. because if you nest and then you add, then you move. Or if you nest and then you move everything together, which you don't want. All right, so I'll call this concrete parent. Cool. All right. Okay, next week I'm going to start adding buildings and start creating a little bit more, not functionality yet, but I'm going to start adding a lot more buildings and try to filling in this scene with something that looks a lot more like this with all these different buildings, and to add some, there's a park down here, which is cool, and then add some trees and some vegetation and things like that. So that's what I'm working on. I hope you join me next week. Also, there's some more questions. Sweet games. You just answered it. I thought you might make box set 0, and put all their entities in a single empty entity. Then you can move the city to the red box with the eyeball method. Yeah, you could do that too. Yes, you could do the same thing. A nice feature might be to reset the center of scene. Ooh, sweet games. Great idea. That would be nice. That would be really nice. Okay, I'm going to take that and write it down. Not just on a piece of paper, but write it down and actually make note of that as a request. Thanks for joining. We've been here for about an hour, so thanks for joining me. Come back next week. Any questions you might have, we'll just keep building this city and keeps coming up with whatever we can do. This is fun. Thanks for joining. We'll talk to you later. Bye.